Okay guys, here's you a video for your review for your test on trig equations, the law of sines and cosines, and your two area formulas. It's going to be very important that you know your formulas. You have to know them by heart. I'm not going to have them on the test. You're not going to be allowed to have them. So if you get credit for knowing them, it's going to be part of the questions. So got to put that stuff to memory. We're going to go through the review sheet here. Let me turn on the timer so that we stop within the time frame allowed. It's probably going to take 3 or 4 videos to get this done. At the beginning, you're going to have 7 short answer questions. First one says, what is the domain of the inverse sine and cosine functions? Sounds very sophisticated, but all I'm getting at is what is the range of sine and cosine? If you remember from when we graphed sine and cosine you have the little wave action for sine. My question to you is, if it's just regular old sine of x, what does it top out at and what does it bottom out at? Because the inverse function, remember when we graphed those and it went side to side and he did like this, that's what the inverse is. So he topped out at 1 and he bottomed out at -1. That's what we're talking about. So we're going to write that in interval notation. There's your answer. All right, then it says, what's the domain of the inverse secant and cosecant functions? This one, basically, it's the opposite of what you have here. So it's everything but what's in between -1 and 1. So start at -infinity, come up to -1. You're going to count that one, so use a bracket. Then you're going to start over at +1, and then you're going to go up to positive at infinity. So that's what you get for secant and cosecant. Now, it says what's the domain for tangent and cotangent? This is all real numbers. Now, these questions they tie in with the trig equations. Those, if you're having trouble remembering why in the world are we having those questions, it goes back to the trig equations. Same thing for questions 3 and 4. It says which two quadrants is sine positive? If you remember, you're all students take calculus. Then you can come over here and you can tell me that sine x is positive in 1 and 2. And then you can tell me cosine x is positive in 1 and 4. And tangent of x is positive in 1 and 3. Okay, so that's not too bad. Now, I kind of got a little sneaky on you on the last question because I asked you about cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Well, I don't think in the reciprocal, so go ahead and turn them back over. The reciprocal of cosecant is sine. The reciprocal of secant is cosine. And the reciprocal of cotangent is tangent. Okay, so I'm asking you, where are they negative? Well, guys, if you got the first question right for number 3, this question is basically the other two quadrants. Sine is negative in, let's see here, if he's positive in 1 and 2, he's negative in 3 and 4. All right, and actually, I shouldn't put sine, should I? The question was cosecant. Let's do it like that. And then we've got secant is negative in, let's see here, if he's positive in 1 and 4, over here, he's going to be negative over there. That would be 2 and 3. All right, and then we've got cotangent. Cotangent's going to work just like tangent. Well, if tangent is positive in 1 and 3, then he's going to be negative in 2 and 4. There we go. All right, and then we're going to start, we got 2 more questions. Explain why cosine x equals 3 has no solutions. If you remember that first question, the very first question I asked you, what's the domain of the inverse functions of sine and cosine? And we said from -1 to 1. Basically, these things aren't going to have, the equations for sine and cosine will not have a solution unless this part right here is somewhere in this range. That's the reason I was wanting you to know this little tidbit of information. If it's less than -1 or if it's greater than +1, you have no solutions. So if you type this in your calculator and you put second cosine and you typed in 3 and hit enter, it's going to give you an error message. So the reason why this doesn't work is, let's see here, 3 is not in the range of cosine. And that'll work just fine. Okay, now will tangent of x ever have no solutions? Well, what did we say was the domain of the inverse tangent cotangent? Well, they work everything. So will you ever have something that doesn't work? No, you won't. So tangent will never have no solution as an answer. All values work. So there's nothing that you can use for tangent or cotangent that you're not going to be able to get a solution for. So anything else, you could possibly run into errors with sine, cosine, secant, and cosecant. But tangent and cotangent, you're good to go. All right, so now it's time to work some equations. Okay, now some of these you're going to need your unit circle. Some of them you're going to need your special right triangles. And if it doesn't fit either one of those, you have to be prepared with your calculator. But you're always going to have to use your little quadrants and determine where is your trig function, positive or negative. Okay, so let's get started. By the way, I'm going to take pictures of my review sheet and put it on my webpage. Pictures of this will also be on the webpage if you just want pictures. But let's work through it and see how well we do. We're going to come in here and we're going to do the square root because we already have sine squared by itself. Let me put that 1 back there. The square root of sine squared is sine. All right, now the square root of 1, it's very important that you put the plus or minus 1. Okay, reason being is because that's going to add to your number of solutions. Okay, when sine is 1, that should tell you unit circle. Now, remember sine is the second one because the first number is cosine and the second number is sine. So this is 1, 0. This is 0, 1. Ah, we have a positive 1 there. So 90 degrees is one answer. And then down here we're going to have negative 1, 0. Then we've got 0, negative 1. There's the other one at 270. So there's our 2 answers. We have a positive 1 at 90. We have a negative 1 at 270. We're done. All right, for number 2. Number 2, we're going to come in and let's solve this. We'll have 2 tangent of x equals 1. Divide 3 by 2. Okay, so I've got tangent equals 1/2. Okay. Well, tangent, the only time you use a unit circle for tangent is when it has 0 or undefined. So we don't need a unit circle. But 1/2, you think about it with your special right triangles. There's no way to get tangent to be 1/2 with a special right triangle. Because if you think about a 30, 60, 90, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we would have some kind of mixture of 1 and square root of 3. And then over here for your other triangle, remember for a 45, you got 1, 1, square root of 2. So remember, tangent of a 45 is always 1. So this right here is a calculator problem. The only thing we got to remember is where is tangent positive. This is a positive 1/2. Tangent is positive in first quadrant and third quadrant. So I need a calculator and I need to type second tangent 1/2. It will give me the answer 26.6 degrees. Okay, that's my first quadrant answer right there. Now to find my third quadrant answer, I need to add that to 180. So 180 plus 26.6 is 206.6. Both of those answers need to be included. There you go. All right, number 3. 3 and 4, we've got to factor. Okay, so for number 3, this is that normal, can you factor a trinomial thing? It is the hard kind because there's a number out front. So 3 sine x and regular old sine x. And then what are two numbers that multiply to 2? Well, do you want the 2 multiplied times the 3 or not? Because our middle terms need to add to 5. What that means is you don't want your 2 multiplied times your 3 because then you've gone over. That gives you 6. So this gives me 2 sine x. This gives me 3 sine x. So if I do that, that's 2 sine x. That's 3 sine x. So everything's great. That's looking good. If I have a plus in the back, it means my answer signs are the same, and they're both going to be whatever's up front. So that would be a minus. So now I have 2 problems. I have this first guy equals 0, and then I have the second guy equals 0. All right, let me get some space. Okay, you got to solve them both. So if you move your 2 over, he becomes positive. Divide through by the 3. You always divide through if the number's in front. If it's on the angle, you can't do that. Only if it's out front in front of the trig function. Okay? That's when you can do that. So I have sine x equals 2/3. Well, that's not going to be a unit circle because it's not a 0, a 1, or a -1. And it's not a special right triangle because it's not a square root of 3. So this means you need your calculator. Sine is positive in the first and the second. And that looks really bad, but you just got to remember you're doing first quadrant and you're doing second quadrant. So you type in your calculator second sine 2/3, hit enter, and you should come up with 41.8. That's your first quadrant answer. Now to get the second quadrant answer, you've got to do 180 minus that. And that would give you 138.2 degrees. Alright, so you got those 2, but you still got to come over here and do this part. You're not done with the whole problem. Bump that over and you get sine of x equals 1. That's special. Remember, if sine is 1, that's unit triangle. Now, I'll tell you what, let's just roll up here and cheat and use the unit circle we already got up here. Right up here. Sine is the one in the back end. So the back number was 1 at 90 degrees, and that's the only time. So that's the only angle you get. Every once in a blue moon, you'll get 1 answer instead of 2. So you actually have 3 answers there because you got 1 for this part and 2 for that part. All right, let's see if we can get this one more problem done. We've got a minute and a half. We're going to factor out cosine, and that's going to leave cosine x minus 1 equals 0. Take both pieces, set them equal to 0. All right, and you're going to solve them both out. This one's ready to roll. For cosine to be 0, that's the unit circle. So go back up here and use our little picture that we've got. So on your test, just draw one nice unit circle. You don't have to draw it a zillion times. Cosine's the first number, though. Where's the first number 0? First number 0 here and here. So that is at 90 and 270. Now, second equation. Move your 1 over. All right, so still unit circle. That's one of those specials. So cosine is the first number. Where's your first number? A positive 1. Right there. That is, you're going to call that 0 degrees. We don't call it 360. We call it 0 degrees. And that's the only place. So once again, you got 3 answers. You got this one, and you got those 3. Okay, I will catch y'all for the rest of this, or we're going to pick it up in the next video.